it's the success.
Not only to think, but to act outside of the box.
You need a coach to help guide you on what your sweet spot is.
What you do works, period.
You probably read my origin story by now, and if you haven't, I encourage you to read about how I was so fed up pretending I was happy that I quit over text and walked away from a six-figure salary. I couldn't fake being happy anymore, and I was so determined to find my sweet spot. Until I came across ikigai, I had no idea what a sweet spot was. While I was good at what I did and I got paid well for it, I did not enjoy it 70% of the time. I also didn't feel I was helping people as much as I wanted to. My client Rashid says it best. When you start a career, you start in a conventional way. You need a job, you need to make money, you need to join a company, but no one ever tells you that you need to find something that you love doing every day. So you spend many years in a certain role and find out that you want to do something different. It's a shock to your system, and you don't know how to go about your search or look for those jobs. You don't know if that thing that you like doing, that you're good at, has a title somewhere in the world. The exercises in this module will help you nail that sweet spot, the intersection of what you love, what the world needs, what you're good at, and what you can get paid for. So why is it important to spend time figuring out your career sweet spot, even if you need to find a job fast and make money? Well, my client Simone says it best. She mentioned to me that after figuring out her sweet spot, she became very focused and gained confidence, knowing what jobs to apply for. Knowing her sweet spot helped her land the job faster. So I'm going to be going through the process of identifying your sweet spot. Here's the truth. Simon Sinek was wrong. You need to start with your fears to understand yourself better, not your why. Because if you ignore your fears, you're going to get blocked. Rashid shares with me that until he discovered what his fear was, he wasn't able to move forward. He realized that he was so terrified of starting over and not cashing out all the hard work he put in his business. It was very comforting for him to realize that in this program, I actually advocate for building upon your previous experience. And that comes from my own personal experience of being terrified and not going after the job that I love. And then becoming a career coach and realizing that I didn't have to start over. The other thing that blocks people is the fear of incompetency and the thought of going back to get a master's degree or simply doing something that was different from what I've done without definitely knowing if I'd be good at it terrified the heck out of me. There were a lot of childhood baggage and baggage from toxic environments that I was holding all over my shoulders. I was constantly compared to other kids, the kids who got the straight A's. My parents wrapped me in an overprotective bubble. They favored education over socializing when building relationships is the necessary skill to get promoted. The 5 P's of living your purpose: perspective, potential, preparation, personality, and persistence. Perspective. You are in control of your perspective. You can't control events. You can't control people. You can only control your own perspective. When you own your perspective, you can change it. Friends and family are going to impact your perspective. But when you take ownership of that, you don't need to listen to all the chatter around you. You don't need to listen to the fact that, you don't have Canadian or US experience. Self-talk is important. The way you speak to yourself verbally impacts your mindset and your mentality as well as your actions. Asking yourself if it's your past events that caused you to hate your job or the actual tasks that you have done. If you are carrying a lot of baggage, like I once did, it may actually blur your vision. I thought I hated coaching, but truthfully, it wasn't coaching that I hated. It was my boss. Once I let go of that baggage, I realized that coaching is my true purpose, and I confidently pivoted into career coaching. Another client of mine was terrified of getting into a technical role because he failed a Microsoft interview. And so he carried this baggage with him. And in the end, after he let go of that baggage, he was able to land at Red Hat and make a 6-figure salary. Pause this video and write down one thing in your past that, in your perspective, is holding you back. Write down a negative perspective that you have on it and try to change it into a positive one. Example, I was discriminated against in one of my previous contracts. The negative perspective that could hold me back is I will continue to get laughed at for being Arab. The positive perspective is I will be able to help my clients because I can empathize with the way they feel. This exercise will help you distinguish whether you truly hate a task or if it's because of previous baggage when you get to the career audit. I want you to shift from scarcity thinking to abundance thinking. When you gain perspective, you are open and understand your infinite potential. Do not depend on external validation. You can beat the record, just like runners have. It may take you longer, it may take you shorter. Your circumstances are different than anyone else. So stop comparing yourself to others. That was the principle that got my client Rashid to land at Amazon. In fact, we have a joke in our community about the turtle winning the race because he watched a number of cohorts throughout an entire period of 1 year get offers, but it didn't keep him from pursuing his dream. Preparation. Goals can change. I don't want you to focus too much on goals. Instead, focus on growth. My goals changed so many times in my career journey. My first goal was to become a partner at Deloitte. I quickly realized that it didn't resonate with me. Then I wanted to be the best agile coach. And then I realized that didn't resonate with me. The thing about goals, they change because of your life circumstances. The things that used to matter to you when you were in your 20s no longer matter in your 40s or your 50s. So I advise people to embrace the concept of incremental progress or small measurable goals. And rather than fixating on measuring your success based on goals, try to compare yourself to where you started and use smart measurable goals. As I started my business, I put on 30 pounds in my first year of coaching, and I almost had a stroke. I started working with a health coach, and she asked me to set a SMART goal of dropping 3 inches in 2 months, rather than trying to lose all the 30 pounds. Because my goal was small and reasonable, I was able to achieve it. When it comes to preparation, one of my clients, Rashid, did it best. So his biggest blocker was interviews. He set small goals for himself, like, you know what, I'll create 1 interview story this week, or I'm gonna apply to 2 jobs this week. He approached his huge career transition into small chunks. He set small goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, and realistic, and time-bound goals. So as you go through this program, I want you to set SMART weekly goals for yourself, even if it means setting 1 hour aside or 10 minutes a day to work on a lesson or an entire module. Give it a try. Pause this video and complete the exercise of creating a SMART goal for yourself. Personality. People ignore this part. It's very important. People approach their careers without thinking about the relationships, without thinking of the career as a relational process. Truth be told, one of the biggest reasons that I ran away from the corporate world and decided to start my own business is because I thought I'd be able to get away with doing things my way or the highway. Man, was I wrong. I quickly realized that entrepreneurship required playing nice with people who had different working styles than myself. I have to admit that I wasn't the easiest person to work with as a product manager in the corporate world. While my greatest strength was my decisiveness, there were times when I bulldozed over people. and I came across too aggressive. I am, as part of the DISC assessment that you're going to be completing, a high D. And a high D can be tough when you are a coach because you need to meet people where they're at. But just like I adapted my style, so can you. Persistence. Figuring out your ideal job is going to be a frustrating process. You won't know until you share your findings and attend the coaching sessions because we all have blind spots. It's going to feel like I'm Mr. Miyagi and you're going to be waxing on and waxing off and you're going to be like, why the heck is she making me do all these exercises? But you're going to get there, I promise you. You're not going to get great at interviews overnight or even get contacted for interviews overnight. But if you persist, just like my 81 clients, you're going to get there because you're going to go through incremental progress. One of my clients, Zawur, he went through this process. At the beginning, he doubted himself and he thought that maybe he was aiming too high. So as I talked to him and got the actual data in terms of the number of jobs he was applying and learned that his conversion rate was actually 30%, we realized that a lot of this was based on emotion, thinking that he wasn't succeeding. And then we used empiricism to determine what was holding him back in the process. And we identified that it was not his ideal job, it was not that his resume was not great, it's that he needed to work on interviews. And once we worked on that, he ended up achieving results. So I invite you to stop leaning too much on your emotion and go with data. Data is going to help you figure out what you need to work on. And lastly, I want to go through what my client Rashid's lessons go through. Some of them are around courage, some of them are around trusting your guide, some of them are around looking up to your peers, and being patient and getting rid of expectations. That is the exact formula that Rashid went through and what made him successful. Apply the learnings from Rashid to get your dream job. Have the right mindset in order to succeed. And I'll see you in the next lesson.